What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of Real Talk. I am sitting here with the one, the only, the Ricky Ticky NickTrinity. Ricky Tick. We're not. No, we're gonna leave this in.
Just NickTrinity.
Just. I don't know. I don't know why I always feel the need to like give you 6 different rhyming variables every time we talk. Like whenever I would stream, you would always show up and I would say Ricky Ticky Nicky. Where did that come from? Why did I? Do you have any idea where that came from?
I have no idea. I really don't know. It just kind of happened one day when you were on your stream.
So it's just my ADHD brain. Got it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, welcome, Nick. I'm glad you're here. No one's gonna watch this.
I'm glad to be here.
It's great. It's basically we're gonna talk today about a good amount of tech, but also a good amount of RuneScape, because I think that's kind of our forte when it comes to what we're looking at. And I think with playing either one of those games for a long period of time, you definitely get immersed in the whole pay to win aspect or the whole nostalgia aspect, which is what we're going to dive into as well. So I think we'll just start off first. Why are companies squeezing into the GPU market more than the consumer? Now, I'm sure you get where I'm coming from this, but if someone maybe listening doesn't, I'm going to go ahead and preface this with, you'll notice that you can actually buy a pre-built system much easier than you can buy a GPU. It's kind of a difficult situation right now for gamers. I mean, I want to upgrade my stuff, but I really don't want to pay like a 300% markup on everything. Have you been having any of those issues over there, Nick? What have you been doing with it?
Well, to be honest with you, it's about the money factor. Companies, established companies, in fact, are more likely to be able to get hands-on with those products because they're trusted sources. Mm-hmm. So like if me or you decided, oh, I want to upgrade my computer and I would like to get something from, say, like NVIDIA Direct, you can't do that because, well, they don't trust you. It's as simple as that.
I don't know. It just seems like what Olivia and I were talking about on the last podcast was it's kind of ironic that NVIDIA was like, hey, so we're going to put a lock on these cards. And then they released the unlocking file. Now, do you think that was an inside job or not? Do you think that was an inside job?
It had to have been, obviously. There's no way it wasn't, especially because it was on the website download.
It was almost like they put it on a platter right in front of them for like a school lunch. That was how much it was served up. Like it wasn't
school lunch. No, that was a golden. That was a
corral?
buffet.
That was a
golden corral buffet right there. They just served it up for free almost.
I don't understand what happened there. As a tech person and someone who's been under NDA, I don't really see the steps that could make that be an accident. I mean, yes, there's a certain point of, you create a website, you put something on the website, even if you're coding in HTML, the files are all saved in a certain structure, so anything that shouldn't be there shouldn't be there. There should have been no reason that an internal driver was on a public-facing website. That's, at least my opinion, because I know that they have drivers for everything else, but why put a obviously, I'd say, hack and slash tool for GPUs just out on the network? Like, I don't know. I think it was an inside bit. But
it wouldn't really surprise me that they did it, though, considering that there's a lot of, especially in the cryptocurrency market, there's a lot of people who are buying those cards and mining. So who are they going to listen to? They're not going to listen to us. They're listening to the ones that give them money. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line,
mm-hmm.
So while the consumer market is still very strong, no matter which way you look at it, it's still very strong. But I think a lot of companies are starting to realize that people are working from home. People are able to do things that they weren't previously, thought to be able to do. And that's also another factor into it. Like, so, take, for instance, my stepmother. She's currently working from home. She needed a computer, and they basically built like 3,000 computers just from the parts they were able to get from all the actual companies, the manufacturers. And it's things like that are basically squeezing everything into the companies, not into the consumer. Now, on the flip side of that, as a consumer, I think it would be nice to have more options, better options in a timely manner. but unfortunately, that's just not the way it's looking right now.
It's I guess it's it caught me by my shock, I'd say, when they were like, oh well, cars are being hit by this too. Okay, are they? I mean, yes, cool, semiconductor chips, but I feel like it's kind of almost good that we got the car shortage, because it feel like it brought more attention to the actual chip shortage. It made gamers issues more legitimate, because now it's affecting the auto industry. It's not just, mom, I want to play Minecraft at 144 FPS. It's, I need my new Ford Taurus. Like, it's a little,
exactly,
it's a little bit more of an escalated thing. But I mean, that's another kind of point I wanted to bring up in terms of like revenue in games. This is a big question. This question could quite literally blow the internet wide open in terms of, put your tinfoil hats on. You ready for this, Nick?
Yeah, let's hit it.
Do you think gaming companies leave a certain percentage of bots in their games for a quarterly revenue boost, then ban them as the more progressed bots, and then wait again?
Yes. Simple answer, yes. So, for instance, let's look at RuneScape, one of our favorite games. Me and you both have been playing this game for pretty much since the beginning of the game itself.
Yeah.
And there have always been bots in the game, and right now, especially in old school RuneScape, there is still a huge number of bots and bot farms that just go basically unnoticed unless you're looking at other content creators. Who is it, Pugger, that does all those videos?
Yeah, Sir Pugger.
On all the bots. Yeah. So unless somebody like him posts about it, they're not going to ever do anything about it. And because it's still driving active player numbers higher and higher, that's giving them a win. So why would they do that? Why would they just
get rid of
them altogether?
I agree completely. What's the negative? As Jagex, the only negative is the public-facing persona, right? Like, isn't that really the only negative for them? Because either way, they're getting... Obviously, if these bots are a member, they had to find some way to get membership, likely a bond, because these botters typically aren't putting credit card info on these accounts. They aren't putting PayPal info on these accounts. They're just doing bonds. Bonds had a double-edged sword, if you kind of think about it. Bonds made it extremely easy to have an untraceable membership account, which I think is the biggest downfall of bonds. They're great, but if you think about it, without bonds, you wouldn't have had an easy way to really... I mean, yes, you could use like burner credit cards, but without bonds, you wouldn't have had as easy of a way to just like, oh, I can just... You could literally create a brand new account on a VPN and give it a bond from a different computer, and suddenly that account now has membership without even having to enter in any address or any kind of billing address. It's so much more anonymous than it used to be. Like, if you were to create an account, you would have to have, like... I remember when I was young, growing up, I had to have like my whole address and everything to make sure it would work, a validated email address. Also, have you ever created an account without a validated email address? I've done that recently to create some alts. It's really weird how it's even allowed to go through, because there's no confirmation that you need to confirm the email, and that's what botters will use to just hold that account without having any recovery email, so they actually sell for more in the market. Why is there not something in place? And that's another thing. This all ties into the whole percentage as well, Nick. This stuff could have been fixed. I mean, let's dive into what they could have done to fix the bots, right? Have you seen that new bot detector plugin? Have I told you about that?
No, you haven't. I haven't actually seen it. So
it's
tell me about it.
It's basically this plugin that detects players around you and automatically reports them for doing certain things. So like, if you'll look up accounts, say I'm at Motherload Mine doing Amethyst on the hardcore, right? I can look up accounts there, and the active plugin, the bot detector plugin, is actually checking people the whole time we're there. So it'll report, like, in a session of a couple hours, like, depending on how busy it is, 40 to 200 people really quickly. And those people get checked through their high scores, they get checked through their stats, the XP gain per hour in certain areas. It's a whole algorithm. It's not just like a, hey, there's people that might have weird stats here.
See, I like that idea, but there's always still going to be that small margin of an actual player on just some weird looking account that may get banned from that.
That's true.
That's the downside of it. Now, there's not really a way to get around something like that, especially unless you use some kind of a advanced AI. But
I mean, Jagex can barely build they can barely build a stable server without an advanced AI.
So I don't know. I like that idea. It can work under the right circumstances, but we're not there yet, and we won't be there for at least another, couple to a few years.
Honestly, I feel that same way. I just don't really get why, in terms of the starting point of where we're at in tech, it just doesn't make sense to me that we are unable to get anywhere with the current direction of bots. Like, how can we not? It has to be almost intentional at this point. That's where I think it doesn't make sense that a company that obviously has a tech infrastructure, an employee infrastructure, and is expanding rapidly, just doesn't seem to do anything but give us numbers on Twitter.
Well, let me kind of stop you right there. So this is going to kind of lead into the whole login lockout thing, which I was personally part of.
Mm-hmm.
Their infrastructure, they have one, but it's very outdated in most cases. And that, I think, is the sole problem right now, is them being outdated. And like, say, in the case of Warzone, there's just not an anti-cheat or anything in there to prevent bots, hackers, or anything of that sort. So they at least have a system in place. I just feel like it doesn't work as well as it should, but they're also limited for, just the smallest details that they would be able to change. They can't change them. Now, if they were to go back through and rip apart a lot of the old spaghetti code, which that's going to take years alone, and reformat it in what are they on HTML, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the new formats, I believe.
Yeah.
So it would take them years just to go back and fix some of the base code. And this, I'm talking like 5 to 6 years with their current team to go back through and try to keep the game active, adding new stuff, and then going back and fixing some of it. It's I don't really know how to put it. Like, they can do it. It's just not in the books right now. It's not worth it right now.
In terms of a company trying to remove the bots,
something like RS4.
Yeah, in terms of the company removing all the bots, I still think personally that it's an inside job. I think a lot of the bots in games are extremely an inside job. Tinfoil hats on completely for me.
I wouldn't say an inside job. I would just say that they don't want to respond to it.
Because it's almost like a passive aggressive solution.
Yeah, if they respond to it, it's going to affect them negatively in the press, and if they don't respond to it, it affects them negatively from the consumer standpoint, which is us. And with the percentage of the people out there who watch the media compared to people who play it, that's a huge difference. It's an extremely huge difference. So I don't know. I think they want to stay out of the public eye for this one, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But there's no way to tell unless we sit down and have a JMod in here and actively talk about it. But even still, when it's brought up in their Twitch chat, whenever they do their streams every single week, what are we going to do about the botters and all the other cheats and glitches? God, what is the other word?
Abuse?
The
bug
exploits.
Abuse?
Bug abuse, all that stuff. When is all that stuff going to get solved? And they have never really given us a clear answer. You can even see and look on Reddit, that's the same answers that they're giving everyone, or it's the generic like, well, thank you for contacting us. Go ahead and send us a DM, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know. It's a very sketchy territory right now, but I wish something would be done.
Yeah, honestly, I think at that point, there's not much we can really dive into that too much further, because in all honesty, it's a lot of mystique from the company themselves. But this kind of brings me to my next point. Why does it seem like RS3 and old school RuneScape just hate each other's guts? Why is that a thing? Where did it start from? Is it something about the animosity of being angry about the game still being changed? Is that just the foundation of this?
For the most part, yes. So back when we changed to EOC, this is where all of the problems began. Everything was running smooth and fine. We weren't really getting that regular of updates beforehand because they were still working on NXT, which is what we're playing on now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I feel like they kind of let everyone down with the update. For the first couple of weeks of EOC, there were just problems just building constantly. it can be anywhere from just simple tasks not working, like you couldn't be able to complete a quest, or you couldn't use the action bar properly, or you couldn't actually add anything to the action bar, take anything away. There was a lot of issues that were stacking up, and that drove a lot of people away. And not to mention the fact of there were already a lot of PKers and stakers who did not like it because you couldn't change it. You couldn't turn it off. Back in that day, PKing was still one of the most relevant things in the game.
Oh yeah.
PKing, bossing, and staking. Those were the big things. The bossers absolutely loved it. It made bossing quicker, easier, more profitable for whoever was doing it because you can get faster kills. But it absolutely demolished the PKing scene, and that's when you saw the mass exodus of players just stop playing. And to alleviate that, they brought out old school RuneScape. And I think it was a welcome thing, because I kind of missed the nostalgia of having the old combat system, which you can still play in RS3, by the way. But it was a main foundation. It's back now. There's a ton more updates that I have never even touched yet on old school that I would love to. However, for me personally, it was the graphics update that I liked, and I can't really see myself playing old school RuneScape without, kind of an updated
Where's the
graphic.
anger come from? Where does that animosity? Is the anger just because it was a failed update? What is the anger from?
The anger comes from the player base that swears by each one of those games. Like me and you, we play both. Not regularly. I haven't logged into old school in almost 2 months. It comes from people not really liking some of the updates or changes, or it's like, oh, well, that's not the original game, or this isn't the original game, or
like, hey, this
one
isn't what
doesn't
I do.
have summoning, or like it doesn't have summoning or invention, all that other unnecessary garbage. Stop it.
I don't
get some help.
I don't know why people. The question I guess I just want to answer is there ever going to be a compromise? Because like we have on the conversation hit list here, it's could OSRS and RS3 benefit from a closer relationship between communities? I think we could. I think the fact that we are constantly the fact that we're constantly at each other's throats, even if it is a minor amount of the community, it doesn't help us grow anything. And I think a lot of people get too hyped up about what game they like and forget it's a game. I mean, the only thing that the beef between old school RuneScape and RS3 really does is competition, is wanting to see like, oh, hey, well, this game just got this update. Oh, well, we got this one. It's a competition between the two. Unfortunately, it's like, why don't we just get the teams working together to figure out like, what can we add to RS3 from the old school side of things to make life, fun and easier for people? Or, what can we bring from RS3, like some of the other group bosses, not just some of the raids that are already in there, but like Virago. Like, why can't we bring something like that over to old school, where it's a multi-staged kind of planned combat situation? So things like that. I don't know, man. Like, I love both games. So I don't know where the bias comes from. Let me read you this. So with today's segment of today's Google, I'm going to kind of read you what's in there. I Googled OSRS versus RS3. I didn't put any other clarifiers in there, nothing like that. And the first article that comes up, it says, things generally take longer in OSRS than they do in RS3. Well, that is true. Certain things take longer, yes. But I mean, it's kind of overall true. Mainly because of all the quality of life features added in EOC and after. However, RS3 does have a lot more skills available to the player base, as OSRS players often mock RS3 players of their non-existent PvP combat system. So, I think, and this goes for a mix of a lot of the other companies too, I don't know if the fire's necessarily fueled by the player base. It almost feels like yeah, there's obviously going to be a few people that say that, but maybe it's just it's very much fueled by external parties that want to get a gimmick out of it. I mean, whenever I see someone talking crap about EOC or RS3, it's like they just want clout or they want attention. At least in the groups that I'm in on Facebook, you'll see that constantly where people just want attention. But this article is clearly clickbait. I mean, it's factual, but it's like, why is OSRS thriving when RS3 is struggling? Actually, the numbers, yeah, you can't say that as easily as I'd like for people to say that, because the amount of people that are looking in certain countries and botting in certain countries are on OSRS more predominantly. Now, I will say, when I got on RS3, Nick, I ran into an absolute metric fuck ton of bots. It was insane.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of bots in free to play worlds, but you don't see too many of them in the membership.
But that was the thing. When I was
which is odd.
On the double XP week, when I first started my hardcore Iron Man, I didn't use the double XP, but I was just doing archaeology, and I was running into multiple, and I mean multiple bots with like 80 plus archaeology or 90 plus archaeology at material caches. And they're just sitting there, and they're very obviously a bot. They've got like a bronze pickaxe or something from like Tutorial Island, right? So I guess I don't see where Jagex doesn't see that, but I mean,
no, and that goes back to the other points we were talking about earlier. They see it, they just don't want to do anything about it.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably as much as that's going to be. But why are games pay to win? Why do you think? If you had to kind of, if you had to, you don't have to give an opinion on pay to win games. Obviously, everyone knows pay to win is not something that we like. Certain people use it to get through certain hours of gameplay, whatever. But why is it a thing?
So it became a thing when more and more games started to go free to play. Well, they realized that obviously they're not getting revenue. They can't pay to get license agreements for new software to develop games, or they can't pay their employees salaries, which that was the big one. Paying the employees salaries was the huge one there. Now it's a hard thing to discuss, because I think they're a good thing. I think they can be a good thing if they're done properly. So in the case of, say, RuneScape, you can pretty much buy stuff, buy bonds, do whatever, and turn them into keys or buy keys. Yeah, you can do everything. You can max an account. There are videos on YouTube of people maxing an account just from keys. Now, that's stupid. I don't like that. I don't like people to be able to do that. I think that there should not really be as many lamps as there were, which they have gone down quite a bit, and now it's replaced by bonus XP, which is essentially just double XP when it's not double XP. On the flip side of thing, there's another game that I don't really ever talk about that much that I used to play pretty competitively, and we almost actually went to Japan in the finals of the Gold League that was playing. They sell tanks, and they're usually worse than the counterpart.
Okay.
Which most of the time is fine. In some cases, there's power creep with those that I paid money for. But that's a good thing. I like that. It means you cannot just simply outclass everyone with something that you've paid money for. They did it the right way. And they've also changed things, like more cosmetic items that you can actually buy and purchase to put on your tanks, or decorate your garage and stuff like that. That's different. It's a lot of cosmetic stuff. Now, RS3, they have a cosmetic side of things too, where you can buy rune coins and spend them on whatever's in Solomon's store, or get things for free whenever there's an event going on. Like what was the thing for the courier that we got for free? Or like this week, or starting, I think it's starting today, or no, yes, I don't remember when it started, but the mental health awareness campaign going on in RuneScape right now too.
Yeah,
so you can get free stuff from that, but it's being able to spend money to get ahead that I do not like. I don't know why it's a thing.
I can tell you. I'm gonna counter it. I'll play devil's advocate.
Okay, let's hear it.
These days, I feel like people just have less time. And I know that might sound like hypocritical because everything we do is faster, but it almost feels like everything that we do has more things that have to go along with it. If you, say, are working, you're usually going to be working more hours now than you would have back in the day, because everything costs more. Rent costs more, groceries cost more, your bills cost more, everything costs more. So you're working more, you have less time. And for the casual player, that's where these are coming in. You know, like these games were great back when all we had was dial up and we didn't have like 18 other things trying to vie for our attention. Well, yeah, but not only that, you got to think of all the things that are on the internet and on the networks that are taking people's attention. You've got how many new video games coming out every other month, how many new movies coming out, how many streaming services, how many game streaming services there are. I mean, forget about GameFly being a thing back in the day. I don't know if you're still out there, GameFly. Good for you if you are. You're probably like MySpace surviving. But my point is that there is so many more distractions that old school's an anomaly. Old school is the anomaly of, okay, I mean, yeah, you can kind of pay to win, but you still have to do your skills. You have to buy those bonds. The bonds are exuberantly expensive. But if we're talking about RS3, from a perspective of either that, or if you want to talk about bonds for old school bonds, I still think those are great. If you really want to play and you want to buy membership, just either pay $15, or if you've got an account that you want to get, you know, extended. What I do wish they would bring, one thing I love, quick little tangent here from RS3, they have the membership availability of like buying a day of membership, which I think is fantastic. I think that's great if you want to transfer things off of it.
That's actually not bad.
It's really innovative. I think it was something that should have been done a long time ago. But back to RS3, in terms of its like cost and things that you can use, say I work 60 hours a week, but I still love RuneScape. It's the game that I played. If you're playing RS3, you probably have played RuneScape, like you and I have said, for a very long time, decade or more. They just had their 20-year anniversary. So it's this double-sided coin of, I want everything to be legit, but I also don't want to get left behind. All right, like there's that mental side of, man, I really want to play this game. I really want to go kill like Virago or Ambassador. Like I want to go kill all these big guys. But then you're essentially bottlenecked by the amount of time you have. And the dopamine rush that you normally would get from killing those bosses or leveling up, you just don't have it because, well, you don't have the time. So instead, you look to what's the easier route. Okay, well, I can, if I'm working so much and I've got some money, I might as well buy some keys. Or if you're in Call of Duty, I'll buy some packs. Or if you're in NBA, you'll buy some packs, or FIFA, you know. They're all on there. And I think that as much as I don't like them, there's a couple things they could do to fix it, right? You could have, you could easily have things that aren't overpowered, like the Squeal of Fortune and all that stuff with the chests. There's different promotions, so they're on the right track. From beforehand, it was just like an open fest of just get this, get this, get this. Now the game's so far past like using microtransactions, it doesn't matter anymore. People have millions and millions of bonus XP. People have an insane amount of proteins or an insane amount of dummies to train on. There's just, it's such a inflated thing now that on RS3 they don't really care. But old school is what I'm worried about, man. I mean, they've kind of, I don't know, it seems like old school's getting more of a budget. When the game gets more of a budget, it seems like there's more hands in the pot. So I think in terms of, how do you feel about it with like young kids though? Like, say a loot box in Call of Duty. You get a loot box in Call of Duty and it's like you're trying for like the baseball bat because it's like a one-hit weapon or something. But these kids, they don't understand, maybe they do, they don't understand the rarity of how rare it is, and they might see a YouTuber opening up like 1,000 keys.
And that's the problem though, is like I don't mind the keys. I just hate the fact that they're just, you can spend money to get experience, which is pretty much one of the whole premises of the game, is to train your skills, become better. And it's like, you're not going to really learn too much if you just pay your way through it. And that's one of the biggest problems I have. And it's not just RuneScape. Like, let's look at one of the big culprits that shut down a game in basically 2017. Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Oh boy.
Star Wars Battlefront 2. They did it wrong.
Wrong and
now it's like, have they gone back and fixed a lot of things? Absolutely. But it's dead. It's gone. It was done on release.
Yeah, no,
like,
I didn't even buy it.
It was fun. It was fun to play, but my God, it was the microtransactions that were just over the top. Like day one, people are spending $500 to get everything in the game.
It's like Darth
unlock
Vader,
all of this stuff, and be able to just walk up to people and just slap them across the face and win the game. That was the big one for me. But it's like, I don't know, like RuneScape is one of the weird ones. It's like, have I bought stuff? Oh, absolutely. I've bought keys. I've bought rune coins. I've bought bonds. I've bought all that stuff. but I never used them in a way that impacted me negatively.
But does it impact
Now,
you
it's like,
negatively
if
technically
you
though?
wanna-
Like if say someone on RuneScape's buying keys, how does that affect you?
Well, I mean, that's not them
Or is it the
buying them is not
score?
affecting me.
Is it like a high score thing that bothers you?
No, not even, because you can't really even get high score stuff just from buying bonds. Like you can buy stuff, sell whatever you get from either the keys or sell the bonds on the
So are we
Grand
just
Exchange.
boomers then? Are we just boomers that are mad?
Probably.
I mean, I don't want to cut you off, but
Probably.
like in all honesty, is that the issue? Is the bottom line like we didn't have the like? I get mad when I see a kid with a cool Nerf gun or like a really cool. I don't know if you ever have that moment where you're like, damn, I wish I had this when I was a kid, like an automatic slinky or something. You know, like just I don't think that's a thing. But if it's not slinky, yeah, it moves.
An automatic slinky.
Put your slinky down. Don't put an engine on it. We're not liable for any slinky injuries. I want that noted. But like, I think maybe it's the fact that we're like, we didn't have it, and we're upset about that because all these people that are playing RS3, they do have it. Or like,
no, I mean,
is that where it comes from?
I just have mixed feelings about it. Is all. Like, I love it. It's a great thing to have because us buying stuff like that is giving them revenue, and in turn they're paying their employees higher salaries. They're able to hire more people to give us more updates, to give us better updates. It's a winning situation no matter how you look at it because people are always going to buy the stuff.
True.
I don't know, I feel like there should be a cap on how much you can buy on in a certain month. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, put a cap on it.
Something that doesn't
really
allow
all that
people to
needs
go
be
just
done.
insane.
Yeah, that's it.
As a
And
GP, you can just go as much as you want.
exactly. So I don't know. It's a mixed bag. I like it. I don't like it, but I've been part of it. So I don't know. It's very weird. It's a very weird thing to really discuss.
I guess if that's, I mean, honestly, I think that's probably as deep as we can go on that. But I had a question I really wanted to ask you because you're like one of the few people that I trust when it comes to product reviews because they're like all bullshit. Like if you go on Amazon, they're like, oh my god, 40,000 reviews. Have you guys ever gotten? This is a little tangent, but like, do you ever get those little cards with your Amazon purchases? Like it's saying like review this for $10 gift card. And it's like how is that not illegal?
I've seen them before.
How is that not illegal? Because I swear, and like it's like 60 to 50% of my packages, I will get that card. I won't do it because I know it's technically morally wrong. Because like one time it was with like a super cheap off-brand charger for Jaden's laptop. The other time I think it was like a cable, like a 3-pack of cables. Sometimes it's like a blender. Like it's random, completely random.
And there's a way to get around it, and unfortunately it's like Amazon has taken a pretty weird path where there are so many sellers on that platform now that it's hard to keep track of who are the trusted, people. So like for phone and charging accessories, I always go to Anchor no matter what. Mm-hmm. And it's not sponsored, by the way, but I always go to Anchor, and everything that they've ever given me has been amazing. Mm-hmm. Everything works flawlessly. Do they ever leave any kind of note like, oh, hey, do this and you'll get, a free gift card or whatever? No, they just say like, hey, thank you for your purchase. If there's something wrong, please contact us.
Which I think
that's all there needs to be. That's all it needs to be. That's it. Nothing else.
Is it a downgrade of quality and just hoping that the consumer will be like, hey, I know this is shit, but like $10 is $10.
$10 if you get a review, like even if it's good or bad.
I've never done it, so I don't.
We'll give you 20.
Well, I've never known if they always say like a fair and honest review, but if someone's giving me $10, like, do they actually pay it if it's a bad review? Like, if I go in there and just scathingly,
I guarantee it not.
Like, if I scathingly reviewed this charger, because the charger that we got, like, it frayed within a couple months, and it was like really cheap, so obviously I wasn't expecting much. It was just like a quick pinch charger. But the fact is, it was like, are they going to refund me $10? Okay, I'm sorry. Quick tangent. I just want to bring this into the podcast. And then this is our Amazon section, essentially. This is the Amazon and online shopping section. Did I tell you about the package that got delivered onto the back of Jaden's brother's car? It was literally put.
What? No.
I swear on my mom, this dude, or lady, or whoever you are, took a package and put it underneath the spoiler of Jaden's brother's car. Okay. Now, he has like a Grand Prix, so the spoiler is not that big. But
yeah,
at this point, I went out to check because I'd been napping, and it had been about 2 hours since it was there. The car was not in the driveway.
Oh,
so
no.
It was at this point that I started doing some calculations in my head. Like, okay, 1, how heavy is this package? 2, I doubt the bubble wrap's gonna actually give any kind of safety to it. It was in like one of those like little white Amazon bags they give them in. And like small stuff
with little tiny bubble wrap, like real thin stuff. Yeah,
even though it had my address on it, needless to say, I never got that package. I had to then get another one from Amazon. They sent me one for free for free. I had to wait like an extra 4 days, and Jaden's charger was half out, so that sucked. But this whole reason I brought up Amazon, because I want to know, why are gaming chairs so bad? Why is there only like one brand, Secret Lab, that I want to get eventually, but like, why are they so bad? What has happened?
So you say that, but I've had my DX Racer for 6 years.
Well, DX Racer as well is another brand, but everybody that tried to copy DX Racer, all those
brands
chairs
that copied DX Racer, Secret Lab, and oh god, what is the other one? Omega, I think.
Omega's under Secret Lab.
Oh, it is? Okay. So the companies who tried to copy them, so like you can go to what is it, Office Depot, Office Max, or whatever is near you, and they have those knockoff gaming chairs. They're garbage. They're absolute garbage. I don't know how I can stress this enough. I don't know. Go sit in it. You'll probably enjoy it until you go to like a convention or something and actually see like Secret Lab or DX Racer. I loved my DX Racer. Unfortunately, it's retired now because of some unforeseen circumstances.
I told you not
to get a new one.
I told you not to have sex in that chair. I told you not. I said.
So that has nothing to do with it. It's a completely unrelated incident that happened.
Well, but why are companies capitalizing on the gamer persona to the point of almost taking advantage of the consumer at this point?
I mean, I wouldn't say that. Like,
but these chairs are garbage.
Capitalizing on the fact that
they're not even good material. They're just getting like expensive for no reason.
They're capitalizing on the fact that it looks cool. Like, people want something that looks cool on stream or looks cool on YouTube or whatever. It's like I'm literally sitting in a quite terrible office chair from Office Depot because I had to get something to replace my DX Racer. This thing is it's comfortable because it's technically an office chair, but it's fabric and it's around electronics and it sucks. Every time you get up, there's a little bit of static. But besides the point, I don't know. They're terrible quality for the most part, the knockoff ones, and there's a lot of the pistons in a lot of these chairs. No matter which chair you buy, they're always going to go out. And I have done a lot of research into the pistons in the chairs, and they're just all cheap. No matter where you get them from, even DX Racer, Secret Lab, the pistons are all still very cheap, and they're all going to give out at some point. So my DX Racer, I had to replace the piston in mine because, well, for one, I'm fat, and for two, it was already 4 years old by that point, being sitting every day for hours and hours just playing video games. Now, I don't know. I like the chairs. I like how they sometimes feel whenever you actually set them up properly with the lumbar support and the neck support and everything. They're not too bad, but they're all still horrible on your back and your neck. Yeah,
they're all terrible. Like, I don't understand why all these racing chairs, they look like they are the most designed to be comfortable while gaming, and then they are so uncomfortable. It is absolutely staggering to me.
they're designed to look like they're comfortable, but after sitting in them for a couple of hours, unless it's like some kind of a nice supporting memory foam, which my DX Racer was, that thing was like $600. Unless it's something like a memory foam type thing that has a lot of support behind it, it's not really that good. If you want a good chair that gives you good posture and will not destroy your back over time, you need to look at some of those kind of like performance, office chairs,
like Herman Miller,
that are like perforated and stuff like that, and they have that huge, like, what do you call it, like lumbar piece back there.
It's got more of a curve than like Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like that shit is like inverted like a really curvy banana.
But once you sit in it, it feels weird at first until you give it like a week. And it's the most comfortable chair that you have ever owned in your life.
Well, this kind of like, we just talked about all those features. That brings me into a great question here. Is tech getting more filler features to increase its base price when in actuality it could cost less now to manufacture those items? I mean, I guess the point that I want to bring in this is computers, right? At what point does the PC and some of its components start to get a little, I don't want to say pointless because there's always going to be crypto, but if they lock cards, like let's hypothetically throw that out there. If they lock cards to no longer, GPUs that is, if they lock them to no longer be used for mining, would some of the features just be pointless at that point then eventually? Like,
absolutely, yeah. Because mining crypto depends on you basically solving a code.
Mm-hmm.
And that can only be done with a ton of processing power. Now, graphics cards have some of the best processing power out of the entire power plant of a computer. Alongside, sometimes you'll get some other cards that may have oh god, it's
like a Quadro series versus a GeForce.
Yeah,
it's like built for
you get one
machine
that's dedicated
performance.
for machine. Yeah, exactly. You'll get something like that's dedicated for it, but those are so pricey that they just go for consumer and they buy, twice the amount of a Quadro just to be able to get that kind of power for computing. And as far as like filler things go, it's like all of the extra add-on stuff from, like, say, NVIDIA, like, oh, you can do this, you can do that, you can, I don't even know. There's so many different, add-ons and things that you can do.
There's so much that it's hard to even think of individual ones. It's like it's just a pile, and it's like, pick it out, grab it. Is that useful? Like, that's what it feels like to me sometimes when it comes to like getting anything. It's just it's like a conglomeration.
Like with NVIDIA, like if you go through and you do like you do all the installing or the installer for the software, be like, oh, do you want to install a GeForce Experience and this other thing and this other thing and this other thing? I was like, no, I just want the driver because that's all I care about.
It's insane.
It's things like that. And I like say like my MacBook Pro. I got this thing not too long ago. I would say it's probably been about a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
This thing, it has, I would like to think, the bare minimum for hardware. But once you open this thing up and turn it on, it has packed full with so much of the Apple filler stuff that it's kind of disgusting.
Wasn't that the whole point of Apple back in the day, that it just was not full of filler? Like it was like, hey, this is the lightweight program.
Yeah. That was one of the big points of it. And now it's just like, yeah, it's all useful. Don't get me wrong. Like, if I was like, whenever I start getting back into content creation, which I'm doing soon, by the way, once I start getting back into that, I'll actually start using some of the stuff on it. But right now it's almost kind of useless to me, but it still comes with it. Why are you charging so much for so little? You're not getting, my PC is way more powerful than this Studio Editor Edition MacBook Pro. Like, come on.
Well, Macs in general are like, Macs in general are reaching that hill. The hill of, how far does proprietary take us in today's market? Because yes, they continue to innovate, but there's only like, I mean, the great example was like the Mac, the Mac Pro wheels were like $800 or
Yeah,
something,
that was stupid.
something just ignorantly priced. It was just dumb. And so that's the part that I guess we could probably look at the most, is that Apple is just Apple's. If I was a stock,
Apple's just Apple.
if I was
Let's say
Apple,
that.
if I was Apple, I would look into becoming an internet provider in some regard, because there's only as far as your products can take you, and they have like Apple Music, which is trash. Like, I don't get it. I guess in terms of Apple, it seems like they're reaching out for everything. They're kind of acquiring companies without talking about it, and then they take their technology to make sure that it won't make anything else look bad. So I guess when is the tipping point? Like, if have you seen the price of MacBook Airs? What
Yeah,
the hell? It's an Air. What is in it? It's just an Air. What's the name Air mean if it's $2,000? Like, what the...
Like, so let me tell you, every once in a while, like, you know, every couple of months or like every month or so, I'll go onto the Apple website just to be like, okay, well, I've got my iPhone, I have an iPad, and I have a MacBook Pro. All right, so let's see what they have. What have they upgraded? And oh my God, there's just so much just random crap on there that I don't need.
Are they just throwing it
Like,
at the wall? Like, is that for the
Yeah.
consumer? They're just like, hey, I hope this works. Like, is that what's
It's
happening?
like next year we're probably going to be at the iPhone 30. It's like, why? Just stick with something that you know works, and just give it slight upgrades. You know, every year or two. You know, we're not. This isn't Call of Duty. We're not releasing completely new products every damn year. There's no point for it. Like, you know, there's a case that, you know, there's some people who are able to upgrade their phones every single time there's a new
Or they, like,
iPhone
lease
out
it.
there. But you don't need it. You don't need half of that stuff.
Has
Like,
phones done that same issue
the
too?
The three cameras on the back of what is the iPhone 12 or whatever, or 12 Max.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I understand, like, oh yeah, sure, I can take my phone and do some of the same things that a DSLR can, but it's never going to be the same quality. My iPhone 10 XR thing, one camera, that's all I need. If I need to do anything else, I have other options. I have other devices that are capable of doing it better. But it's I don't know, like that it's that filler stuff, that stuff that they just keep adding and adding and adding, when it doesn't, like, it may
Doesn't
cost
need
them. So let's say in the case
But they got to keep their base
of,
price of their phone up. You're forgetting the point.
yeah,
It's that psychology of sales. If something costs less, it must be worse, right? So like, if
Yeah.
Apple releases a product, as much as I would love them to release a product that's like $600, they release a $600 phone or a $500 phone, that'd be beautiful for the market. But then Apple could never really do that, because then people wouldn't buy
would
it.
think it's trash.
People,
yeah,
I mean, unless they hyped it up as like some sort of Google integrated like glass, and it's a lightweight version for working out, maybe. But like, you're not going to be able to sell.
actually, that's actually a good idea.
Right?
We need to cut that out of the podcast.
Cut that. All right,
Yeah, we need
Tim
to
Cook.
cut that one out.
Tim Cook, call me. You know what I'm saying? I know you got a phone.
Yeah.
You probably got like 87 of them. Just call me. All right.
So you just go ahead and hit up at the PhD on Twitter.
I bet you know my phone number more than I do. Okay, Tim Cook. All right. I would say, I would ask you this question. This next little bit of the podcast is going to get a little political. If you're not into politics and you don't want to talk about it, if not you, but like people that are listening, because I've already cleared this with you. Nick lives in Texas, and boy howdy, Nick, how do you? This is going to kind of date the podcast, but how do you feel about the CDC being like, all right, if you're vaccinated, you don't need a mask?
I mean, I'm fine with it. Like,
I just mean because you work in a
let's
grocery
say-
store, so it's hard to like.
Well, I never really. It doesn't really bother me too much, because I always keep my distance from the people that I work with, customers. So for me, it's not too big of a deal, especially because my company mandates that we have to wear it. So I feel a little bit more at ease. I mean, nothing's really ever bothered me at all. The only thing that really bothered me through the whole like COVID thing was the first couple of weeks where everyone decided they needed to panic buy everything. That's what bothered me.
Did you guys get hit by a gas shortage? I say shortage, but I mean surge.
This is Texas.
You guys already had one of those in the winter. I forgot. Fucking rest in peace,
so
oil lines.
We had ours in February. Valentine's Day was a very cold day here in Texas. Let's just say that.
We had to light some candles, but it wasn't for a fun time.
Did I even tell you what happened during that whole freeze?
Please go on.
Okay, so months before the whole freeze happened, my good friend Andrew and his now wife Michelle, they decided they were going to get married in February. Well, that's usually a pretty nice time of the year here in Texas. I'm talking like 60-70 degree weather for the most part. This year was different. So they had everything planned, and we only had maybe like a week and a half notice of what was going to happen with the weather.
Okay.
So leading up all the way to Valentine's Day, like 2 weeks before, they were getting things prepped, and they were buying all the stuff, like all the, drinks, food, getting catering, getting the cake, getting the venue set up, all that stuff in the 2 weeks before the wedding, because they wanted it to be a special occasion. Obviously, it's a wedding.
Yeah.
You should only have one of those in your life. And then the freeze started happening. So myself, I live in the north part of Texas, up in the Fort Worth area. Shout out to Fort Worth.
Shout out.
Now, the venue was down in Austin. Now, if you're not familiar with it, hold on, let me get you an actual mileage count.
Oh God, we're about to Google. We're gonna MapQuest our way down to Texas here. We're gonna, dude. Do you remember MapQuest? Oh my God.
It is 189 and a half miles. Basically call it 190 miles.
Jesus.
And it takes, right now, it would take 3.5 hours to get there. And so on the way down, it was starting to get pretty cold. I say pretty cold. I'm in Texas. You got to remember, 40 degrees is still kind of cold when the day before was 80.
Yeah. So no, I literally get
slack,
that.
Y'all. Cut me some slack. So on our way down there, we were doing some illegal speeds. Let's just say that we wanted to beat the cold. We were wrong. The further south we got, the colder it got, and the more and more ice buildup on the road started to occur, and you can start seeing ice and shit on all the trees down in Austin. Austin was frozen by that point. It was already bad by the time we got there. And I was just kind of going, well, how the hell does this happen? Like, no, we're closer to the equator than we were 3 hours ago. How?
You ever trying to Bill Nye science your way out of the car?
Pretty much. So we get to the hotels. We go out for dinner before the wedding. It was supposed to be the people who were in the wedding, but because by extension, me and my brother have been friends with them for almost, oh God, probably closer to 15, 16 years now. We've known them. Goodness. And so we got invited to the party. So we go out venturing. I'm by myself in my car going to this venue, and I'm just sliding everywhere. No matter where I turn, sliding. Jesus. Until we got to the gravel driveway area of the venue. The next day, the wedding happens. It's beautiful. Oh my God, is it beautiful? It's an all white chapel, like built kind of brand new, has some brush paint stuff everywhere. Kind of looks a little bit rustic. I have never seen in Texas ice build up on trees that bad. While listening to the weather on the way back home, right as we got onto the highway after slipping and sliding for about 20 minutes to get to the highway, which usually only takes 5 minutes to get there, that was the worst temperature they have ever seen. That is the lowest temperature ever recorded in Austin, Texas.
How was the wedding party?
And the wedding party, it was. we didn't.
I mean, like the actual people, like the like groomsmen, the bride. How were they feeling with all of the chilled atmosphere?
I mean, everything went smooth. Everything went according to plan, aside from a couple people not showing up from both sides of their families.
That's good.
That was about it. Like, the people who could show up showed up, but at that point it was a stay home, because this state is not prepared for anything like that. So just stay home, stay safe. Like, we will send you pictures, we will send you whatever to kind of
look at Twitter. Just look at Twitter. You'll be fine.
Yeah, it's like that. I don't know. Like, it was kind of weird but fun. I was anxious because I wanted to get on the road and get home before it started getting really bad. Because at that time it was only just drizzle and ice. Now there was we use sand here instead of salt, which is not good.
No,
but it's better for your vehicles.
Yeah.
So there were sand trucks pretty much along the entire way of Highway 35, which is one of the main interstates that runs from north to south of Texas. So on the drive back, it really wasn't that bad.
Well, at least you survived.
The problems really started. So 35 splits, kind of like halfway between Waco and Fort Worth, into 35 West and 35 East. Well, we take west because that's where it leads to Fort Worth. East leads to Dallas. The problem started then at that split, because that was when the heavy snow started to come down. I have never in my life seen that much fucking snow before. I was not terrified. In fact, I was having fun. I was sitting there pulling my e-brake, doing 60 on the highway.
You dumb, dumb son of a bitch. You are dumb as... I'm imagining right now, like, keep in mind... You
can see me doing it.
No, I'm just imagining the Tokyo Tokyo Drift soundtrack just... do, yeah. And you just getting off the exit ramp, just fucking flying, or... Jesus.
No. So the best part's still coming. So we get to the split, and every 2 miles we drive, the worse it gets. At that point, you can't really see anything in front of you. That was my first time driving in measurable snow like that, but it's not a big deal. Like, people underestimate the power of a moving vehicle whenever it's just starting to snow. I'm glad that we didn't have any more ice to deal with, but no, the fun stuff came once we got past downtown Fort Worth. At that point, we couldn't see anything. We couldn't see the car to my left or the right on the highway, and this is a 6-lane one-way highway.
Oh, fuck that.
We couldn't see people, so we had to rely on just the lights. And you could split the gap between some lights, or you'd be rear-ending somebody. You wouldn't know.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was bad. But once we pulled in closer to where we live here in Fort Worth, my brother's in the vehicle in front of me. They rented a vehicle. I took my own because we stayed at different hotels. But he started to pull off the highway, an exit before we're normally supposed to. We pulling into Whataburger.
Oh, God. I bet that line was mad long. That line...
No.
Really?
No, dude. No,
really?
Absolutely not.
Man.
No.
If I was in a snowstorm, first thing I'm doing is getting some greasy food. I tell you right now, we're pulling the fuck over. I'm getting the largest sandwich, and I'm taking a nap. If I'm in Texas and there's snow, we are hunkering down at a Whataburger. Okay, that is rule number 2.
Man. There was only like 6 cars ahead of us. And you got to think this is a huge city. Oh, yeah. There are restaurants and food, just any kind of food places that you would fathom. They're all here. So the lines were never really long unless they were on like right off of a major highway, which this one was, but most people had already gotten off the road by then because it was about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And yeah, we pulled in, we got ourselves some Whataburger, headed back to the apartment, and that's where our problems started.
Wait, hold on. How is that? This whole story, you just survived traversing Mount Everest in road form, And this is where your problem started? They didn't fuck up your order at Whataburger?
Yes.
That's not where your problem started? Like, they didn't give you pickles?
No.
You said no pickles?
Oh, dude. No. Whataburger is always on point. Don't you
I
dare.
wasn't besmirching it. Hold up. Don't shoot the messenger now. I was asking. I had to make sure that it got your order right. I got to hold Whataburger to task,
They're not
okay?
no In-N-Out. It's not an In-N-Out. This is Whataburger we're talking about.
Listen,
here.
you know how I have problems with fast
never.
food. I swear, every other time I order fast food, they just try to kill me. Like, actually, they're like, I'm going to give them an aneurysm.
Of course, yeah. But
okay,
no,
so the trouble got bad when you got home. All right, what happened?
So we get home. First thing we noticed was that we actually had left the fridge slightly open. So everything in there was already bad. Or at least everything that needed to be refrigerated was bad.
Well,
because we were gone for like 2 days. So that's where our problem started. It wasn't too bad. It was not cold in the house because we were not part of the rolling outages yet. The rolling outages started that next day at like 6 o'clock in the morning. No, 4 o'clock in the morning. So 4 o'clock rolls around, power goes out. It's out for 15 minutes, comes back on, and then it goes back off again, which is usually how rolling blackouts work here in Texas, because they do it all the time when it's extremely hot outside, because generator plants have to be able to let their equipment cool down.
You would really think they'd come up with a better solution. Just throwing
not
that out there.
Not here in this state, though. But not here in this state.
But I mean, like, you're telling me they can't find another way to produce some electricity?
Well, we're gonna get to that here in just a second.
Oh no.
But that's where the problems really started. Was at 4 a.m. power goes out. We were part of rolling blackouts for, I'd say, about 5 days. It was about 5 or 6 days during this whole freeze, because we had 4 days of below freezing weather the entire time, which we have never seen, or at least I've never seen. I don't know if it's ever happened before, but it wasn't bad. Like, it would come on enough for the heater to come on, and we wouldn't have anything else plugged in. Like, we would have our chargers, like things plugged into our chargers, and that was it. But otherwise, everything was running fine. The next morning, or I guess that morning, we went up to my store, my Kroger store, and because it's right next to where we rented the vehicle from. So we decided to go in there and get a few of the essentials that we kind of needed. And the store was perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Everything is nice and full. And keep in mind, this is the day after the snow started to fall. We had 2 more snowstorms already on the way. So we go in there, we get our essentials. I get some stuff to, put back in the fridge to get us, to where we can have sandwiches without just bread and meat. Like, sandwich spreads and lettuce and all the things that you could ever want. So we do all that. We go back home. I'm off that day. The next day, oh man, I worked from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Ooh, I thought the pandemic buying was bad. The panic buying there. No. Oh God, no. I got there at 10 o'clock the next day, and my entire department is completely empty, even though it was perfectly full the day before. Like, I'm talking, the back room was already empty. And we usually keep a huge amount of back stock. Oh man, it was bad. It was so bad. Oh, and it was just freaking out over snow. It wasn't even that deep. Like, I have the thin tread tires, the sports tires on my car. The snow never even really got above that on the main roads. So people were just freaking out. It's like, I understand, like, yeah, water, obviously, because our water treatment plants and everything shut down because they were also part of the rolling power outages, and it was all screwed. Like, the power outages were the problem. And I think, without getting too political, so we have what's called ERCOT. They control the power grid. They are managed and operated by people who do not even live in this state. if people's power didn't go out, we would all still have running water, heating, and all kinds of stuff. It wouldn't be a problem. But they were telling us that, well, there's issues getting natural resources to all of our resource burning engines for our power grid. We couldn't get it to there. And then they're like, oh well, the wind turbines froze up and all this other stuff. I'm just like, okay, well, Siemens sells cold weather wind turbine packages, and it's an engine. It's gonna start. Just get the stuff to it. Like, you know, y'all have, it's Texas. We have the resources to get wherever we need to, whenever we need to. Every airport in this state, even if it's a small airport, has plows. You cannot tell me that you couldn't have even brought down trucks from Amarillo, who deal with snow every single year, to some of these other places to be able to deliver fuel to the generators that produced all of our energy. What?
Honestly,
excuse me?
that whole situation was honestly just an entire, like, everything that's happened in the past year and a half has become politicized.
Clusterfuck.
Everything that has happened in the past year and a half has become politicized. It doesn't matter if you drop something out of the ground, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it shouldn't be certain things, but like every single thing that has happened in the past year and a half has become politicized, whether it was not supposed to be or not. Like, every single thing. It doesn't matter if you want to talk about trans rights, if you want to talk about the LGBTIQ community, it doesn't matter if you want to talk about shopping, it doesn't matter if you want to talk about masks, you want to talk about coronavirus. You could talk about anything, and it's all become politicized. But I will say this, Nick. I will say this. Out of everything we've talked about, first of all, this is the first time you've actually told me this story about these rolling blackouts. Thank you for that. I think you told me like part of it before about driving down there.
I briefly mentioned it about a week and a half after I got back. Yeah. Whenever we got power and started hanging out again. But anyways, continue.
The biggest thing that I've looked at these days is honestly, everything's over politicized, but that's kind of why we talk about it, right? Like everything that we like, that's kind of the whole point of real talk, is people getting together for that kind of conversation of just, I don't want the bullshit. I don't want to, you know, foot around with the answers of what we're talking about. And I think that's too often the case now. Like, no one wants to actually have a conversation about why something is broken. Someone wants to always have the conversation about who made it broken. You know, it seems like we'd rather have a scapegoat than a solution in today's society. And frankly, that's why I started Real Talk, because I think we need to have the conversations about it. And honestly, your story just highlights how ridiculous and insane the reactions were. And now there's a fuel shortage, but
there's deeper levels than what I mentioned.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that went on to it. Like, there were people without water for 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, there was terrible logistics of it. None of it gets better when you look at it with a fine-tooth comb. It just gets worse. Like, everything that you would exhume would just get worse. But looks like we are running towards the end of the podcast here. Nick, is there anything that you wanted to plug before we get out of here? Anything, new Discord, new stuff?
Well, I mean, after 7 years of not being live on Twitch, this next Friday I will be live. I do not know the time just yet. I'm still working on that, but I will be live again on twitch.tv/NickTrinity, all one word.
Make sure to link that down in the description as well. Nick, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing to the Dr. Larry's PhD channel, where the Real Talk podcast is held. If you guys enjoyed this, just do me a favor. Talk about it. Have a conversation. Join the conversation, and I will see you next time. Have a good one, guys.
Bye-bye.